Good morning, Mr. Rigo. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good morning, teacher.
Good morning. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How are you doing today?
Sorry?
How are you doing today? How are you doing?
Right now.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm well, What about you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. A little tired, but that's all right. A little tired, but that's okay. How's your week?
It was cool. Everything was fine.
Did you get a chance to watch the video?
Sorry?
You get a chance to watch the video?
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna continue on.
And I sent my homework too. I don't know if Mr. Bader sent it to you.
I think I got everybody's. I think I got everybody's. All right. So you, me, Mr. Gary, and Carolina. We're gonna pick up, and it was important to watch the video because we're gonna pick up from where we left off last time. So let me close some of this other stuff so I can start showing you guys. Good morning, Carolina. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm good. Thanks to God. How about you guys?
Doing well. Doing well.
Good to see you, Fritz.
Good to be here. It's always good to be here. It's always interesting.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
All right. Good morning. All right.
So, Gary, are you in?
Yeah.
Okay, so you get the link. I guess you did. Okay.
So Gary's here. Let's see. His picture. All right, so you guys should be able to see this picture. And this was part of what I put in the video, what I asked you guys to take a look at. So question, what does this picture mean? You got 4 parts of this picture. What does it mean? So this relates to the video, and this relates to what I asked you for to do in the homework. Could someone describe to me in words, Mr. Ego, then I'll ask Mr. Joseph, what this picture means? Let me see if I can expand it so it's a little bit larger. You'll see this, if you get into this, even if you run a business that does a lot with cloud technologies or just computer, you'll see something like this all the time. So what does this mean? Like what kind of system is this? Because we talked about this last month, so I want to make sure people still understand, what does this system mean? Because it's a system, like you see, there are 4 pieces and they're all connected. Mr. Rigo, you want to give it a try?
I'm sorry. Okay.
All right, the audio might not be that great. All right, can you guys hear me clearly? I can hear Carolina clearly. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I see you, Rishi.
I can hear you.
Thank you, Carolina. Carolina's clear.
Clearly.
All right, Mr. Joseph, your audio is a little bit, no, it's probably Rigo. All right, yeah, if I can't hear you, I'm going to ask you to type what you're saying in the chat. So basically, what I described in the video, and we're going to continue on this today, is your person, you connect to these 2 systems to get to a website and get information back. So that's what I'm describing. So whenever you go online, you're connecting to some computer, and that computer is getting you information. that information is stored in something that we call a database. And I think even in French, you say une base de données. So there's a French word too to explain just a place where you put information. And if you've used something like Microsoft Excel, it's the same concept. But the only difference is, Excel is on your computer and you just use one file, usually at a time. For this database, this picture here, I hope you can still see my screen, this MariaDB, DB means database, that could be, make sure we're recording, that could be used by like 100, 200, 1,000 users, maybe more. So that's where it becomes very different. It's important to understand as well. So you could have a system like MariaDB. So here I have a picture of it, it's just one person, but there could be many people. There could be 1,000 people. They connect to this computer, then connect to another computer, and they connect to a database to get information. So that information could be like your school records, it could be hospital records, it could be anything. So the important thing, and I'm gonna ask you guys to watch this video again too, the important thing to remember is that a database is a place where you store information. So we're going to take a look at a database. Second. Change my screen and show you guys show you guys this this database. All right, now, are there any other questions about the video that you watched? Or any questions at all? All right. So. I'm going to share another screen. And stop the share. All right, see if I can remember this. So if you look at my screen, so I'm in a system. I'm in a system called MariaDB. That's the name of the system. So it's a system that you use to store information. I'm going to put this in the chat. And this, again, something that you should, when I put it in the chat, something for you to remember, because it's used all over the place. So this is important to remember, like stuff that's very common, that's used a lot in a lot of different places, then you should take a note of it, because there might be sometime in the future somebody asks you about it or you have to do something with it. So the one I'm talking about is called MariaDB. And then for MariaDB, it's based on something called MySQL. So someone created a system called MySQL, and then somebody else took that system and they created MariaDB. So they took one system and they added on top of it and they created another system. So that's called a database. So what I want you guys to really think about is databases. That's what we're going to talk about today, because we're continuing what we started before. So I'm going to type this command. I'm going to connect to the database. This is the command that I use to connect to the database. All right. So let's see. One second. Let me see if I can turn off the sound, because I don't like when it makes noises like that. I think Willad was trying to get on. Is he in? Okay, Willad's in. All right. All right, come back to that. So I'm going to type this command, show databases. All right. So if you see here, I type this command, show databases. Show databases, plural. So I give the computer a command. I'm telling the system I want to see what databases exist on my system. So si on va yo appeler en français, yo appeler ça une base de données. Ça veut dire que c'est on côté m'ka mette on sorte information, on sorte records, un dossier m'ka mette là-dedans. So ou ka gen une quantité et puis chaque une là-dedans, chaque base de données you représenter on l'autre bagay. Par exemple, you got dossier l'hôpital, you got dossier pour l'école, you got dossier pour travail, mais ça pour qu'on be présenté tout sous besoin mettre on sorte information côté on database, une base de données, c'est là où mettre. So let's see, this is the other thing I want to do. Let's do this. All right. Oh, okay. Show tables. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna start over again so I can show you guys what I'm doing. So I want to use a database. So I'm connected to a computer. Let me put this picture up again. I'm going to close some windows so it's a little bit clearer what I'm doing. But let me stop right here. Actually, let me ask you guys, did that make sense? What did you guys understand from that? So anybody, Gary, Rigaud, looks like Willad was here. Is he still here? Willad's still here. So anybody, could you explain what I've described so far? Anybody? I'll wait.
Hey.
Go ahead. I think that's Gary.
Okay. Yes. You're talking about.
You're on mute, Gary. You went on mute.
Okay.
Okay, now I
So
can.
that, it's like it's like a folder that you can have your own document or your own file that you can post it on it, or you can save it on it, like database.
Yes. Now, how do you say? Because let me look up the word, because it's not dossier. It's not. You answered the question the way I explained it, but I gotta add. Vous m'ajoutez en précision tout ça m'te dit parce que j'aime te dire ou répéter j'aime te expliquer mais m'cap faire un genre plus exact. So métier. On dit ça en français, ou dit dossier. Mais si on saute information, moi, c'est un
Données.
on saute données. So, par exemple, pour même l'âge, date de naissance, lieu de naissance, nom de famille, prénom, information comme ça.
Information, right.
Yes, yeah. So let's see. I don't even want to see this one. Let's use. What in the word for? Oh, in the wrong system. All right, so all right, now I'm in the system. So I want to say you did in this MariaDB, they put a database already that we can use for testing. So it's called test. So I say to the system, I want to use a specific database, right? Database test. And you see it went from here to test. So let me back up again so it's not confusing. I'm on a computer right now. Let me put this screen up. So it's, and because I want you guys to understand how everything's connected. So I'm gonna show you the picture again. So we have, let's see, this. You guys can still see my screen? Can you guys still see my screen?
Yeah, I see it.
All right, so remember we talked about this. You're a person, you connect to a computer, you want some information. Here's the information, it's here. It's on this. So you are connected. It could be one person. Okay, it could be one person, it could be 1,000 people. All of you connect to this machine, from this machine to this database. Base de données. That's what you want. You want the information, you want to put information in, you want to take information out. You want to put it in, you want to take information out. That's what you want to do. That's what I'm trying to show you. So now you see it as a picture. You see it as a picture. Now I'm going to show you, okay, now I'm going to be the one to connect. So I'm going to be here. I'm here now, like this is me. I'm going to show you what it looks like when I connect from here to the database system to get information, all right? So now you see it as a picture, you go, you, a computer, another computer, database. So now I'm going to show this here. So I'm going to go back to where I was before. Where is it? I think it's this one. Should be this one. All right, so let me turn this off 1 second. Bear with me while I turn something off. That's All right, it's gone. All right, so now let me go back here. And all right, so here I am showing the right one. Can you see what I'm typing right here? Can you guys see what I'm typing?
Yes, I see.
Okay, it's not telling me which window I'm sharing, so I just want to make sure you guys can see it. All right, so right now, you see where it says IP 172.3.1.80.72? You guys see that?
Oh, really?
You see this part, IP 172.31.80.72?
No, I'm checking.
All right, let me try to share it again. And
Strategy.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. So this is what I want you to understand. So where it says IP, right? Who can tell me what IP stands for? You got to remember this one. This one's super important. This you got to remember this like perfectly. You can never forget this one. What does IP stand for? Mr. Rigo and Mr. Gary, what does IP stand for?
Personal information.
This is super important. This is one of the most important things you'll ever have to know.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write a list of terms, because it doesn't become too much. I'm going to put together. I'll send it probably Monday. I'm going to put together a list of terms that you guys should know, and you got to memorize it perfectly. Like you always have to know it. But IP stands for Internet Protocol. And this is an address. This is an address. All right, I'm going to. This is an address. So Internet Protocol, this is the address. So this tells me I'm on a machine on the internet. All right, so I know exactly how to connect to it. I know exactly, this is the address. You see it separated here. I know where to start and I know how to get there. So it's like your home address or your school address or your work address. But anyway, what I want to show is that I'm connected to a computer right now that's not in my house. It's on the cloud, and I'm going to connect to the database. So I'm going to say, okay, let me connect. I give my name, and it's going to ask me for a password. I'm going to put the password in. Okay, so now see it says your MariaDB connection ID is 11. So this is where I'll show you the picture where it says MariaDB. Now I'm connected to the database. Remember the picture, I showed me, a computer, a database. Now I'm showing this is a computer I'm connected to. This is the database. Now I'm connected to the database. I sent the commands. Now there's a specific database I want to use. I'm going to show you on this system. If I say show databases, right? Everybody speaks English. So show databases, I'm telling the system, show me every, chaque base de données again. All right. So there are 4. Can you see information schema?
Yes.
MySQL, performance schema, and test. So there are 4 in quatre bases de données dans système. So we're going to create one before we break. We're going to create one. So what I'm going to show you, you can do this as well. All right, this is something that you can do as well. So we connected to a computer. That computer is connected to a database right here that you can see here. And there's something else. There's another way to look at this. If I have time, I'm going to show it to you. Hopefully I have time to do this so that you can actually see the information a different way. But the important thing to remember is that picture, because we're going to keep coming back to that picture. There's a lot of complications in that picture, but if you keep that picture in mind, that'll tell you how everything is connected. You're connected, you are a person, you connect to one computer, it can connect to another computer that has the database. So now I'm saying, I want to use the test database. All right, so now you see it went from MariaDB none, right? Because I wasn't using any. Now it changed to MariaDB test. And everybody here speaks English. So don't be afraid of this. Don't use what Miss Carolina taught you. You know how to speak English, you know how to speak English very well. All right? Anglais nous fort. So now when you read this, when I put this on the screen, if you watch the video, read the words because you'll be able to understand it. So I say, here's a database test. I say in English, use test. The system says, okay, I'm going to change to another database. And now I'm in the database. So now the other thing I'm going to show you something called this wheeler. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to explain something. And like I said, I got to come up with a little dictionary for you guys, so it's not too much, and you guys can like just focus on something else. But I'm going to add. So these are some words I'm going to put for your dictionary. Same way you had an English dictionary with Miss Carolina's class. I'm going to give you a technical dictionary because I think that would help a lot with you guys just being very clear on all the stuff that I explained and just how many different terms you could use. So I described the databases. For you to communicate with the database, you have to use a language. So the language, for example, let me show you something real quick. Now I'm in the database. I'm going to, let's see, I want to see the tables. This one doesn't have any tables. All right, let me pick another one. Let me do a, let's see. Oh, we're gonna create one. So let's create one. Let's do that. I'm gonna show you guys something. You're gonna see something new today. Let's see if I can remember this. I create one that's very, very basic. All right. All right, let's see if we can do this. All right, let's do this. We're going to create a table. And we're going to create a table, and then I'm going to stop and ask you guys to explain some of what I described. All right, so I'm putting together the table. Let's see if this works. So I'm putting together something that so you guys can see. Okay, so they do this differently. All right, I'm gonna show up another part of my screen so you guys can at least see what I'm doing. So I'm gonna share my screen. You should be able to see me here. All right, so we're gonna write a command to create a table. All right. And I'm going to change this around a bit. So before I change, I'm gonna explain what this is doing. So this is a command. This is very, it looks complicated, but let me ask you. So since you guys can see this, tell me as much information as you can about what you think this command does. So we have anybody, Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Rigo, Mr. Gary, anybody. So you're looking at a command right now. It says create table test. It has something called an int. What do you think this command is going to do? Just give me any answer that you can think of. Any answer. I'm going to put a command. I'm going to type this in, something like this in. What do you think it's going to do? Let me make one that's a little bit easier. Let me change something around. So I'm going to change A to age. I'm going to change B to first name. And then I'm going to add one more thing. Now, all right. so now ignore this one. Don't pay attention to this one. What kind of information am I going to store in this database? Just read it from left to right, like all the words that you recognize. All the words where you do recognize. What do you think we're going to create? I'm going to ask somebody. Okay, Mr. Wheeler, what do you think we're going to create here? So just tell me as much information. Like these are all English words that you know. Create, table, test, age, first name, last name. I know some of them you might not be familiar with. You don't know, like this might be confusing. This part might be confusing, but just tell me as much information as you can with what you do know.
All right, good morning. So I was not be on time. It's because of that I didn't talk. So I think here you're going to create a test as this is what I think the main goal here is a test. And I see there is first name, last name, and we have some character where you are going to save maybe some information.
Okay.
This is what I think.
Okay, no, that's a good answer. That is a good answer. Okay, Mr. Rigo, so you have your hand up. You're on mute, so if you have your hand up to answer.
Yeah, what I would say is the table test that you are creating is where that you can save the informations about someone, like his age, his first name, information that is about that person that you want to create the table test.
Perfect. So now you said this, Mr. Wheeler and Mr. Rigo, you said this. So now I only put 3 things up there. So thank you. Good answers. Very good answers. I only put up 3 things, right? Because that's the basic concept. So ça c'est base là. C'est base là. So kunya, tu ka fait 3, ou ka fait 10. So si on me demande, OK, besoin ajouter plus d'informations, complexité est plus que ça. It's not going to, it's going to get more complicated, but it's not going to be super more complicated. Il va beaucoup plus compliqué que ça. Oui, bah là compliqué, une complexité là-dedans. Mais you understand, okay, you're storing information about somebody. It could be age, first name, last name. I can add more. I can say, where were you born? I can say, good morning, Rachel. Good morning, welcome. I can say, where were you born? What's your birthday? What color are your eyes? How tall are you? How much do you weigh? You're a woman, are you a man, etc. I can keep adding to the information. So now that you understand a basic language, so because this is a language. So what I just showed you here, remember we talked about Python, and let me ask this question, because again, I want you guys to connect all this, when you listen to the videos, so you can connect all these pieces, because it's a lot, but I'm trying to keep things in a box so it's not too much. Remember we talked about Python, and could someone tell me what is Python? Just tell me what you know that it is, because then I can go on to, I can explain this next part. So Mr. Rigo, Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Joseph, I think you're still online. Yeah, Mr. Joseph is still here. Just tell me anything basic that you know about Python. Like, what can you say? If somebody asks you, okay, what is Python? What would you say? Anybody? Mr. Wheeler? Or Mr. Gary? Or Mr. Rigo?
Can you type down the word, please?
Sure. All right. I'm going to put this in. Actually, I'll type right here. So, question I'm asking is, just give me any answer you can think of. What, because you heard me talk about this. So, what is Python? Like, if somebody asked you, if someone said to you, hey, I'm going to give you $10 right now, or give me good. I don't know how to count in Haitian money. And say, what is Python? What would you say? What would you say? What would be your answer? Anything. They just want some information. What would be your answer? If someone said to you, what is Python? All right. what you should say, you should start off and say, Python's a language. Okay, Mr. Rigo, go ahead. I didn't see your hand. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Rigo. You're on
Yeah,
mute.
it's a type of language that, but it's a high level language that people use
Exactly.
for programming, maybe things about how to communicate using the computer.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
I
Perfect.
have an idea.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, I think Python is like a purpose that we can use for in general for programming language.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, that it's a language. So the key thing that you said, Willa, and the key thing that you said, Mr. Rigo, is you said it's a language. It's a language. As I said before, you guys speak Creole, you speak French, you know Spanish. Some of you know Spanish. So you know how to learn a new language. That's something you guys know how to do because we're doing this in English. So you learned a new language. Python is its own language. This, what I just showed you, this is also a language. This is a language because you have to tell the computer exactly what you want it to do. The only way you do that is you have to learn the language. So the other language, and we're not going to do too many, but I just want you to understand the most important ones that are out there. Because again, if somebody wants to pay you for this, like you have to understand what you have available to them. So we talked about Python is one of them. The other one that's very popular is like you have to know it. It's like if you work in North America, South America, or the Caribbean, you have to know how to speak English, and ideally you have to know how to speak Spanish. You know, because you get everything. And if you want to go to Canada, you learn French as well. Okay, Mr. Willett, you have a question. Mr. Willett, I see your hand up. You have a question.
I'm here. All right. This is the question that I have, but it's a little bit curious. I see where you write down first name and last name for the character. I see in the parentheses you write there's 10. Why it is 10?
Cool. I love that question. That's because you're putting it together. You're putting the pieces. So I'm going to explain some things. I'm going to put some terms up. That's good. This is a really good question. SQL is a language. To answer your question, RDBMS. So like I said, I got to put together this dictionary. So you have a computer system, and let's say you have, because everything has a price on it, right? Everything has a price on it. So if you're, say, 10, the simple answer is someone saying, okay, on average, most names are no longer than 10 characters, maybe. So usually it wouldn't be this short. It might be something like, let's say in real life, not 100 maybe, but maybe like 30. I'll say 30. You know, you might have somebody with like a very long last name, you know, so 30, like they might have a Spanish last name, you know, like in Spain and in some parts of Mexico, they'll have name dash name dash name, you know, something like you might have something like that and the name's very long, but you still have to put a limit on it because you don't have, the way this system is set up, the way they did it originally, you don't have an infinite amount of space, right? So before, because especially this was created, this type of language and this type of technology was created before the cloud. So, you know, this isn't a hard drive, but pretend this is a hard drive. Let's just pretend where I can store information. I would just have this, like I can't expand it, like whatever it is, it's this. So I got to put a limit on how big things can be so I can have an idea of how much information I can store in the database. So you can see, so you're right. When you say you look before and now it's 30, so let's say 30. I had 10 before because I'm saying first names can only be 10 long, 30, excuse me. First name's going to be 30 characters long. Last name's going to be 30 characters long because way back when, let's say 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, before all of you were born, you just had a limited space. You had a computer, because remember when I talk about the cloud, I talk about, it's somewhere in another building. And if you want to add more storage or more information, you could do that. And it's not as expensive. But before, if this is what you had, this is not a hard drive, but pretend. If this is where you store your information, that's it. You don't have any other place to store it. So it's a way to put limits. So now I can say, okay, if I know that so let's say every line is gonna be like 32 bytes or 4. So this is 30, 30, that's 60. This one's gonna be about 4. And we don't have to go into why, but this number is gonna be about 4. So age is gonna be, age is gonna be 4 bytes long. So total that I got here, so I got 30 plus 30 plus 4. This one's gonna be about 4. Int is about 4. 4 plus 30 plus 30 is 64. That means every line can only have 64. That's it. So now I can do a calculation and say, okay, if I have this much space and each line takes 64, how much information could I store? C'est un problème, une calculation fait avec division, ou disons, ok, on va comme ça, on va diviser, et on va diviser dans mon sortie point, 64. On connaît qui limite dans le système là. So that's kind of how to explain it. So, but there are other systems where we're not going to talk about that today, maybe in a couple of months. There are other systems where you don't have a limit. You can put, if your name's 100 characters long, they'll take it. And they'll just keep expanding. You'll keep adding more space for as long as you want to keep paying for it. So the old system, we have, so long answer to your question, but basically two deux époques. Ancien système là, et puis un système de gain Kunya avec the cloud. Ancien système là, the old system, you had a limit, and they put these systems in place with a limit because that's reality. In cloud, if you keep paying, they'll keep building it. They'll keep, most people will never, ever, ever run out of space. The only people who have problems are people like NASA who do the space stuff, and because they got to do these big pictures and they're always collecting data. But everybody else, you're never going to run out of space. So that's kind of like the answer to your question. Does that make sense, Mr. Wheeler? Why you put the limit on it? Does that make sense? Can you hear me? All right, Gary's back. Mr. Wheeler, can you hear me?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
All right, did that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so you don't have to know this, but there are other types of systems. So the system I'm showing you is, I'm going to type this out. This is important to remember. RDBMS, which is Relational Database Management System. Right. So MariaDB is an RDBMS. Put this in the chat for your notes. Where is my chat window? So I just want to, so you understand SQL is a language. You talk to MariaDB in SQL. So I can say, I'll put this in the chat. You talk with MariaDB. That's what it understands. So there are other types of RDBMS systems. They're like, there's Oracle, there's SQL Server, there's Postgres. If you understand one of them, you can pretty much understand all of them. So this is why it's important to get really good at one. So when I talk about Python, it's good to learn something about Python, because if you understand Python, you can do pretty much any of the other ones. If you understand MariaDB, you can do any of the other ones. But it's like, so it's like, you know, if you learn Spanish really well, it's very easy. It's a lot easier for you to learn. If you know Spanish and French, right? You learn Spanish and French, you can go to Italy and understand everything everybody's saying in Italy without taking a lesson in Italian. You don't have to, if you understand French and Spanish well enough, you never have to take a lesson in Italian. You'll be able to understand almost everything everybody's saying, and you've never taken an Italian class. That's what I mean when I talk about these languages like Python, or I talk about SQL as a language. You understand one of them, you can understand like 10 others, right? Because they're different, but they're still very related. You know, it's like French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, I think Romanian. What am I missing? Yeah, those languages, like they call the Romance languages, right? Because they're all related. So if you can speak German, that's different. German, you can understand Dutch, and you go to Netherlands, you can understand them and stuff like that. A second. All right, so let me actually run this program really quick so that you can see this working. It didn't kick me out. All right, so I'm going to switch to another window. Switch to another window, and then you guys can see this in action. So we're going to see this, and hopefully it works, and I didn't mess something up. So we'll see. We'll see if I made any mistakes. Let's see if it's possible. All right, so I'm going to put this here. You should be able to see it. If you can't see it, let me know. I'm just going to copy and paste, and that's something else you guys should learn. Copy and paste. Copy and paste is your best friend, because it's going to save you from typing stuff, and it's going to save you from making mistakes. All right, so I'm going to put this command into MariaDB. Why is it paused? So let me resume, because it looks like it says it's not sharing. I should be screen sharing right now. So I put this command in the window. You can see this here. Let me type the return. All right, okay. So now I created a table called test. So if I do show tables, right, now you see I have a table called test. I just created. So the command that we talked about, create a table named test, I can put age, first name, last name. I said, create it. I gave MariaDB a command. This is what I'm talking to right now. Create this table test. And then it did it. It said query okay. That's telling me that everything went okay. Got about a minute. And then I say, just to make sure that it did what I asked for, I say, show me the tables. And it says, here's a table test, which is this right here. So it's about 10:49. Let's wait. Let's see if I can do this real quick. If not, then we can pick it up when we come back. So we created a table. All right, so remember that picture. We created a table that we can get information from. And let me try this real quick, because I might not remember this. Insert. All right, it's 10:50. I'm going to write this command, and we can try when you guys get back. So let's break. It's 10:50 right now. Let's break until 11 o'clock. And I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. If you have any questions, please, we'll start with the questions at 11. Just make sure everybody's clear and no one's being left behind on what we're doing. But keep in mind that picture that I sent out, posted in the chat. Keep in mind that picture. That's what we're working on. So if you understand those pieces, you'll understand what we're like, where we are and what we're doing. So it's 10:50. I'll see everybody in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Go fire. Ooh, excuse me. Let's see if this works. right, we're back. Looks like we're back. Looks like everybody's back. Except for Wheeler. Wheeler's not back yet. So, but we'll start. Audio's turned up. All right, so we connected to a database. We created a table. And the other thing that we want to do is add some information. So I'm going to wait for, I want to continue, but when Wheeler and I'm guessing somebody else was here. Mr. Goes here. Wheeler was here. Sabine is not here. She was here before. All right, so Wheeler, Sabine. All right, so I'm going to continue when they get back on. I'll ask some questions. So here's the other thing I wanted to show. I think this is going to work. If not, we're going to fix it very quickly. Let's see if I just remember how this works. So actually, this is a good question to ask. So in English, s'il vous plaît, I wrote a command in the SQL language, right? So SQL is language. In SQL, some people say SQL, some people say SQL, I say SQL. So SQL, it means structured, that's S, query, that's Q, language. It's here, RDBMS. All right, so Mr. Joseph, did you have a question?
No, I wanted to tell you sometime I wanted to answer, but I lose connection.
Okay. All right, good. So no, when that happens, so thank you for letting me know. I saw your message. You can put your question in the chat. I'll see you in the chat and I'll answer your question for you. All right, so you can still add that information. So please, if don't hesitate, you don't have to wait. If you have a question to put in the chat and your connection's not perfect, then just put in the chat and we'll be able to see it. So thank you for letting me know. All right, so let me show this. Let's change this around so it's a little bit more consistent. Insert. And keep in mind, this is a language. We're talking about a language. So the language, excuse me, we're talking about a language. So can someone tell me what they think this line does? What do you think this does? So Sabine and Wheeler are joining. So we created a table. What do you think this line does? Anybody can take a guess. Mr. Joseph, I think Mr. Ego is on. Did we lose Mr. Ego? No, Mr. Ego is still here. Mr. Ego Pierre, Mr. Gary Joseph, Wheeler, Mr. Wheeler, Ms. Sabina. Can anybody tell me what this line I just wrote? Because we're gonna run it, we're gonna try it out. Can someone tell me? Okay, Mr. Ego, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's like it's placing the information somewhere. I mean, in the place that you want it.
Okay, perfect. So now, like you guys are smart, so you're understanding this. This is good. Like you're putting it together. So yeah, it's a language. So you create, you add information, and then we'll try something else. So let me switch windows. Did you have something? Did you have? Okay, your hand's down now. So let me do this real quick. I think this is sorry. All right, let's see if I made a mistake. So we're gonna try it out. Copy, paste, and see. All right, I did not make a mistake. So I told MariaDB, right? Remember the picture, the place where I said MariaDB. This is the test database. I say insert into test, which is the table. I should have called it something else, but there's a table called test and a database called test. That's not a good thing to do because it gets confusing. But I have a table and a database called test. You see here, test, test. I say insert, put into, test, age, first name, last name, values, 1, that's too young, should be like 30 or something. Jean-Pierre, but it doesn't matter. It's a number. It doesn't matter. So now I want that information. So I say, I just put this real quick. Select star. Let me do this because otherwise it's going to be confusing. Select age, first name, last name from test. All right. So far I've shown you three sentences that you can put in this language. The first sentence, you create a table because you're learning parts of a language. Create table. The second sentence, insert into the table. Right. So now you learn another sentence in the language. Doesn't matter if you don't know every single word perfectly, but you understand I created, I'm going to put something in it. Now the third, there's another one I'm going to show called select, right? And I'm going to say select here. So now I get this information back, right? So I put in, I get information out. Let me do something simple. Let me create like Mimos. I think that's how you spell it. Mimos job, right? So I'm going to put another record in. So now I put in a second record. I do the same thing, but I just changed the value. What happened? Who was speaking? I couldn't tell. Gary, you're off mute. Okay, so Gary, what were we saying?
Yeah.
What were we saying? I'm gonna mute Gary. Gary a parlé vrai créole. Gary a mis créole pour nous. Put Gary on mute. What? How come I can't do that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, Gary, I'm gonna have to see if I can mute this.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. It won't let me. Hey, guys, you got the power. Wouldn't let me mute you. Let me unmute. All right, I'll figure that out later. Okay, so now I just did the command 2 times. You all understand it. So now if I say select, because I just added another record, where I have 1, I should have 2. All right, so now very basic, but now you see something that you haven't seen before, and you understand you have a language. It's called SQL. Some people say SQL. I say SQL. But if you hear SQL or SQL, it's the same thing. It's a language, and you learned so far 3 verbs, right? The way you learn English verb. You learn create, insert, select. And the 4th one I'm going to show is delete. And I want to take information out. So let's see if I remember this. Delete from test. Where, right? Because I'm giving it a condition. I don't want to delete everything. I want to delete only if something's true. Where, let's say age equals 1. See if I remember, because this might not work. If I don't remember this, I'll fix it. So in words, so I'm not the only one talking. What do you guys think this one does? What would this command do? I think you know every word here. So delete, it means if I say détruire, destroy, what will this, I'm gonna run this command, what do you think it's gonna do? Anybody, Mr. Ego, Mr. Wheeler?
Oh,
Okay, Mr. Ego, you have your hand up. Go ahead, sir, please.
Yeah, as I say, it's reading. I think it's gonna delete the test that you had in the first part because it's equal to 1.
Exactly. See, you guys are getting it. You guys are getting it. So I'm going to do some more examples of this because I think this might be a lot easier for you to conceptualize. But yes, I'm going to do this. This might be wrong because I don't remember. Okay, so now, like Mr. Ego said, it removes it. So now, like to recap, what we've gone over is, I'm going to share this screen. I'm going to put this up here so you guys can see it. We did it. Select. I'm going to send, hopefully I actually remember sending this to, I'm going to send this to Miss Carolina so she can please send it to you guys, and just you'll have that in for your notes. Tonight you're learning the verbs for this language. All right. All right, so let me do this. Share screen. All right, so far we've seen 4 commands. I'm going to show you another one. It's going to be really basic. Create a table. We insert into the table. We select from the table, and we delete from the table. So now you've seen probably 90% of how people use databases. They create, they insert, they select, and they delete. And the one that they're going to do the most is this one: select, pull information from it. So they might put the information in 100 times, but they read the information 1,000 times. Okay, because you always read more. Like you write a book, you read it more than you write the book again. It's something like that. You do it once, put the information there, and people reference it. So the other thing I'm going to show real quickly is kind of basic, but it's important to know as well. But you see these: create table, insert into, select from, delete from. All English words that you guys understand this. So that's very good. Very, very good. So now I'm just going to show this just so you guys see it. It's not that big of a deal. Go back to this. I wish it was a better way I could share this. All right. So if I say create database, now I want to create a new database. Create database. It's a good one. Students. Let me do this. So if I say show databases, right? All right, there's 4. Another command say create database. It's going to be empty. Create database students. Right. Create database teachers. If I say show databases, very easy. Show me six databases. So the one I've been using, test, but I could also create one called students and teachers. So now you understand like the concept of, you have a database system, you can connect to it, you can add information to a table that's there, a database that's there. You can create new databases, you can create new tables, you can add information, you can take information out. Now, the type of information you could put in, I do select. It's going to be information that looks like this. Like you're going to have a column, more columns, That's the best type of information that these databases are good for. Like a lot of people spend a lot of time and energy going back to like the 1960s, putting together something called, just for you, you might find this interesting, but you guys, just so you can, if you're interested in researching more, they created something in mathematics and they called it the relational model. You don't have to know anything beyond that, but if you're interested in Googling it, it's called the relational model. And it's the mathematics, it's the math that makes this thing work. So there's the person who did this, he was a mathematician. So c'est mathématique il était fait, il pas dans by tellement by ordinateur. So les mathématiques il était fait. Mais les fonds mathématiques qui expliquaient comment ça travaille dans le système. Et puis quand l'autre monde qui vient et puis ajouter ça et puis mettre sur ordinateur et puis qu'on a pas la machine. Mais quand tout un modèle pour qui ça travaille. And a lot of it, the reason why the mathematics are important is that you want to have something called data integrity. What that means is you want to make sure that if somebody's going to get the information they expect. So if I do something like this, if I type select this from, let me do this. It's gonna, whoops, that's not good. So if I did something like, world. 13, so 12, 13. I'm not sure what happened there. All right. So so if I did something very simple, select age from test. I just want the age. I don't want all the information. So I could do something like that. I just get that in. What I was trying to say is that the relational model, the reason why it's important for people who do this stuff all day long, or at least understanding, it guarantees that you get the information that you want to get. So if you have 1 million records in the system, there's a way that they prove that what you get is exactly what you're supposed to get, because it could get a little bit confusing, or it could get hard to understand, like, okay, how do we know the data is right? All right. And if you put in bad data, it's going to be bad data. But at least if you want to guarantee that you're getting exactly what you asked for, if it's in there, there's a mathematical model that explains why this works. So that's why this thing has been very popular for like 40 plus years. I think the first systems were like in the 1970s, long time ago, but they've been around for a long time. So if you understand this, so I talked about Python a couple of months ago. I'm talking about SQL right now. Cloud, we're going to keep, this is in the cloud. This is not on my computer. You understand, when you understand these things, you can start putting them together, and then you can start thinking about, okay, how, if somebody said to me on the street, okay, what can you tell me about, relational database systems, and can you help me, right? Or you're in a meeting and somebody says, hey, can you help me? You want to be able to answer like, yes, you can, because you understand these type of commands. So that's what I wanted to cover so far. But since you guys understand this pretty well, I'm going to start adding more. You guys picked this up pretty quickly, so I'm going to add some more information for the next classes, and I'll send this to Carolina. Some of these notes, and ask her to please forward it to you.
I'm here. What did you say, Fritz? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, Carolina. No, I was just talking out loud. So I'm gonna, some of the commands that I wrote for the, the commands I showed running, I'm gonna send them to you, and then if you would please just forward them to the students, so they can like have something to reference as far as like what we worked on today.
Yes, I can do that. Not a problem.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So now let's go on to, I'm going to put up the diagram again, because we're always going to come back to this picture. I want you to, you guys have this picture in your head and memorize it. All right. So let me share. All right. So we spent, I'm here in this picture. Hope you guys can see it. Twice. I'm here. We just spent some time here on this part. So now I want us to spend some time here. So we're gonna try something and see if it works. I changed something on this, so it might not work, but we're gonna try it anyway. And you're gonna learn something. So I talked a lot about this piece today and part of last time, and I'm gonna talk about this Apache stuff. So Apache, I'm going to explain some words. So we talk about MariaDB, that's your database. This is, you are the person, you're the person. I'm going to explain some terms. And I'm going to try and not make it too complicated. See what's all right, 1 second, everybody. All right, so I just need to save these notes. Later. So this is what I wanted to show. Oh, 1 second, everybody just bear with me while I figure some things out. So this. All right, so this, what you should, can everybody see my screen? Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, I do.
All right, so you see where it says test page?
This page.
All right, so that's the other part where we're going to talk about today. All right, so this is a test page, and this is for an EC2. We talk about EC2s a lot. So there's an EC2 that is running a web server, right? So you see it says this page used to test the proper operation of the Apache HTTP server. So if you put this in your browser right now, I'm gonna put this in the chat. If you try and go to this link, it'll work for you. It doesn't do anything complicated. It's something I created this morning to show. But if you went to this website today, I'm gonna destroy it in 25 minutes. It's available to anybody who's on the internet. If you go to that link, it doesn't do anything, but I'm just using it as an example to show something. So I'm going to explain this part. I'm going to put this sentence in the chat. All right. And remember that what I want to show is, I'm going to go back to this. What I want to show is this part. So just as a reminder, we spent all this morning on this part, but I really want to focus on this part right now to kind of explain how this is working. So me, I'm here. I connect to this machine and I get this web page. All right, so whoops, yeah, that should be it. This web page. So there's a system called, because we talked about database systems, now we're going to talk about web servers because they have to connect. This why the web server has to connect to the database system. So if we can actually do this during this will actually be really good. We have time to do this. If I may chat. So Apache HTTP server. Well, let me explain some things first. An HTTP server, every single time you connect to a web page, it doesn't matter what's on the web page, doesn't matter what kind of information, doesn't matter if it's news, doesn't matter if it's sports, it doesn't matter what it is. If you connect to a web page, what you're connecting is to a computer called a web server or an HTTP server, right? HTTP server, web server means about the same thing. So I'll put that in the chat. And I'm going to ask you guys to look this up. I'm going to put this as a homework question. I'm going to ask you guys to find out what HTTP means. It's probably one of the most important words you can know if you're going to be working with this stuff. It's been around for like 30 years or something like that. It's not hard to understand. It really hasn't. It hasn't changed that much. It's changed some, but it hasn't changed that much in 30 years that it's been around. But it's important for you to understand so you can understand how information goes across these different systems. Make sure nobody has any questions so far. Okay, so we're connected to an HTTP server called Apache. Apache is one type of HTTP server, but they all do the same thing. They all do the same thing. The other one is IIS. I might show that another day. But my whole point is they all do the same thing. Just like if you have a Toyota, if you have a Hyundai, if you have a Ford, yeah, they're different cars by different people, but they all do the same thing. You get in the car, you turn the key, you drive, you go to where you need to go, you stop, you get out. That's every car, right? Doesn't matter if it's Toyota, doesn't matter if it's Hyundai, doesn't matter if it's Mercedes, they all do the same thing. They bring you from here to here. The HTTP web server, you connect to it, it gets you information, and you say, I want this information, and it sends it back to you. And it sends it back to you as like a web page, like what you're seeing here. So what we would like to do, let's see if this actually works. I'm gonna see if I can figure this out, to connect the web server with the database server so you can see the information on a web page. So if that doesn't work today, that's fine. We can try it the next time, but I would like to do that. Let's see. All right. Okay, so are there any, while I'm figuring this out, are there any questions? Because you guys had some really good questions about, yep, exactly, hypertext transfer protocol. So let me show you something. So Wheeler posted, everybody look in the chat, Wheeler posted hypertext transfer protocol, which is the exact answer. All right. So we're gonna break this down. Okay, what does that mean? But Mr. Wheeler, since you posted in the chat and there's no wrong answer right now, what do you think hypertext transfer protocol means? What do you think it means, Mr. Wheeler?
Well, I think HTTP, which is hypertext transfer protocol, it's like a standard application that people use to exchange fields on the world, like on worldwide.
Mhm.
I think this is an application, like it's a standard application that people use to exchange information.
Exactly. So we keep talking about languages, right? So HTTP is another type of language, but it's a lot smaller in that it doesn't have as many words. Let's see if we can find some. Let's see, HTTP. So HTTP is a language. It's a very short language. It doesn't have that many words. All right. So if you can see my screen right now, I'm going to put this in the chat. You don't have to know all of this. But again, some of this might seem like, oh my God, he's giving us something else. But once you understand these core, yes, it is a language, because you have to tell the computer exactly what it is that you want it to do. You have to be able to tell the computer this. So these languages, because the computer can understand it, you can understand it. So we talked about Python, and I think Mr. Rigo said it's a general purpose, if I remember correctly. I think Mr. Rigo said this, general purpose language for doing different types of things, right? General purpose. And then today we talked about SQL, and SQL is a very specific language for doing a basic specific thing. Like SQL is not general purpose. It means that you use SQL to get information, like you saw we do today, get information in, get information out, and remove information. So it's very specific about what it does. HTTP, you're telling the computer what you want as far as web pages or files, right? So it's not the same as what we were showing with the records, with the age and the name and the first name and the last name. We're not saying that. We're saying, get me this web page that I want to read, right? So I'm showing this right here where it says methods. Those are the verbs. Like, verb in Creole is same as verb in English, just spelled with an E, but it's the same thing. Everybody knows what a verb is. Si c'est en Creole ou du verbe, or en français ou du verbe, or en anglais you do verb. You know what that is. So it's an action, right? A verb is an action. So here, HTTP, you have HTTP verbs, right? So HTTP is a very short language. It's not complicated. It's very short. And the ones in the language, the words that you use the most, you see this like, hold up, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you have a language that has almost, hold up, yep. You have a language that has only about 9 words in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Only 9 words. So think about that. So you have a language, you can learn this. You can learn this today. You have a language that only has 9 words in it. Just 9. But that's the language that every single time you click on a link, that's the language that you end up using. And the 2 words that you use the most are get and post. So I'm just explaining a little bit more about what Mr. Wheeler posted in the chat. So you have the hypertext transfer protocol, right? Which is HTTP, right? HTTP has 9 words. 9 verbs. Let me be specific. 9 verbs. It's a very small language. It has 9 verbs. And 2 of the verbs, I spelled verbs wrong. 2 of the verbs are used probably 99% of the time. And they are get. The other one is post. Right. So get is probably the one that you use the most after that post. So get, everybody speaks English here. Get means give me the information. I click on a link, the computer translates the language and says, okay, you click on a link, that means you want to get something. You want to get some information. And the information comes back to you. You click on the link, just like I click on a link here. Post is like when you might have an example here. They don't have an example. Oh, all right. Okay, post. This is another verb. I'm going to try and keep this very simple. HTTP, language, 9 verbs, 2 of them you use the most. Get, I want information. Post, I'm sending information. Those are the 2 main things. And there are other commands where you head, most people don't use that. It's not gonna work. Head, put, most people don't use it. Delete, people almost never use it. Connect, options, trace, patch. People use them, but not that often. The ones that you use the most are get, post, and then probably after that, maybe put and head, roughly. And that's your language. That's it. That's your language. And so we talked about Python, SQL, HTTP, right? So now the web server part, let me go back. All right, let me stop for questions. So as far as anything I've explained so far, as far as SQL and HTTP, can anybody explain to me, kind of what we discussed this morning? And some of it might be a lot, some of it might be a little bit fast, but I think you guys definitely got the database part. You understand that. What can you explain to me about the HTTP, and what can you explain to me about, how that could work, how they can work together? Like how you would use the SQL that we talked about this morning, and how would you use HTTP? Anybody explain that to me?
Do you mean a summary about what we have done today?
Yeah, so if you can explain, so especially the last part. So we just discussed, I think, was that you, Mr. Wheeler?
Yeah.
Okay. You just posted about the, HTTP. So, explain to the class like what you understand about how it's used, like what does it do?
Okay, according to what you were talking about here, I realized that HTTP is also a language. Okay, it's also a language, and also it is like we use it like a base because it is getting in lots of function that we need or we do on computer service. And so far we were talking about test page 2 today. And we say that the test page is used to prepare operation, and we were talking about like in this way we were talking about Apache, HTTP server, and so on. So this is what I understand so far.
Good. No, that's good. That's good. Yeah. So that so I think so far we talked about 3 types of languages. We talked about Python, SQL, HTTP, and they all do different things. One does something generally. The other 2 are very specific in terms of what they do, but you can use them to build systems. That's why we bring them up. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we're going to talk about immediately that has to do with the All right, so maybe we can install WordPress. Yeah, maybe we can install WordPress at any time. That, yeah, because I'm gonna make sure I don't overload you guys, because this is a lot already. Like Python by itself is a lot, but you understand the database stuff. HTTP, just keep in mind, when you ask the computer for a web page, that's what you use to communicate. That's all you really need to know about it. So, do we have time to do this? All right, we'll start it. This is a lot to track. This is gonna get a little bit complicated, but it's gonna put things that we did. And if I make a mistake, you get to see how you fix mistakes. So, which is okay. So I'm gonna share another screen, and I'm just gonna run some commands because we're trying. So let me come back to this picture one more time. Let me come back to this picture one more time. This picture right here. So there's a lot of complicated technology here. PHP is another language. We're not going to talk about that one today. So don't worry about PHP. We can talk about that next time. But this picture, keep in your head, because this is how I'll say 90% of the systems that you would ever run into in real life are built something like this. They're built this way. So it's like, if you understand it, I don't know if anybody's into cars, if you understand a transmission system for a Hyundai, you understand it for a Toyota, you understand it for a Mercedes, you understand it for a truck, you understand it for anything. If you understand the transmission system, because it's pretty much all the same thing. You know, they're different, but they're very similar. So, you know, everything I try and teach you and everything that you're learning, it can be applied in different ways. So it's not just one thing. You can use it in many different places. So, all right. So now I'm going to ask you guys to read something during the week, but for now, I'm just going to run through it. You're just going to see me run some commands. So just watch carefully. That's not what I want to do. Just watch carefully while I run some commands to connect another part of this. And we'll actually pick up the next class. I don't think I'm going to get all this done today. So I'm going to do this. Are there any questions so far? All right, so I just downloaded the file. And actually, this is actually good. This is actually good. So I'm good. This is actually, it's good that I did this. So let me start this over again so you guys can see what I did. Ignore this part. RM means remove. So I'll try to explain stuff as I go through it. So I'm going to run this command. Let me do this. I'll run this command. Okay, this is interesting. So remember I talked to you about verbs and how in HTTP, somebody type it in the chat, what's the most popular verb? I said this about 10 minutes ago. What's the most popular verb? The one that you use the most. The most used verb. So remember, there are only 9 of them. There's 9 of them. But there's one of them that's used more than any of them. What was that one?
Is HTTP verb.
As there are 9 verbs. I said there was one that was the most used. It's the one that is used more than anything else.
Oh, get post.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. So those are the 2 most, but the number 1 is get. You say get post, but yes. So now, so I'm going to run this command. It's called wget. And all wget does, it tells you in the name, it just gets. It just does that one verb. For now. It does that one verb. It just gets. So there's a command called wget. You tell what it is that you want to get. So it's somebody took that verb and said, we're going to make a command that just gets information, that just gets it. It's not a web, same way the web browser does it, but I just want, especially if you want files. So right now I want this file. I got an HTTPS, right? That's how I'm going to connect. I'm going to connect to a computer called wordpress.org. I'm going to download this file. So what this command is going to do is going to use the verb get and pull the information down. So this is an example of when I talk about the verb is the most commonly used. There's an example of a command that uses that verb. So I do this, right? And I'm going to show you the response I get. So I just ran this command and the computer gives me a response, right? So it says, okay, you want this information. HTTP request sent, waiting response. Everybody understand what that means? It means I sent a command, the computer says, okay, I'm going to send you what you want. So now 100%, it gave me the file that I needed. So what I'm showing you is that the verb that was used here for the HTTP protocol was get. So that's really what I would show. So when you see this stuff, you know, you're like, okay, wait a second, he's using something called wget. Maybe that's related to what we just talked about, because it's a verb, right? Wget, okay, I see the word get, right? Okay, maybe, okay, all right, maybe it has something. So always connect these pieces. All right, so we got a few minutes. Do this. I'm not going to explain what these do just because I might not have time. So I'm going to try and run this kind of quickly. I'll explain as we go along. All right, so we'll create we talked about this earlier. So I'm going to show some commands that we need to run. Okay, so let me do this. So I'm going to connect to the database again because I need to create another database. So now you're going to get to see the data, some more commands. So let me do this. I'm going to show you another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a user. And we're going to do this again next time. I just want to see what happens when I put these commands. Create user WordPress. Cool. All right. Select. Show. Work show user. That won't work, but that's okay. It did what I wanted to do. So I said, create a user. So create a user in this system. That's the first one. I'm going to create another database. You saw me do that earlier. We've got about a minute. I'm not going to finish this today, but something we can pick up next time to connect the pieces. So a few things. I'm going to send Carolina my notes. I'm going to, got about a minute. Create database. What am I missing? Whoops, kick me out. I'm going to run this last one. That's it. Create database. All right. Show databases. WordPress DB. All right, so that's the thing that we just did. I can do this. So now I'm setting up the database. Some of this is going to be a little bit complicated. Like I said, we'll explain it a little bit more detail. But just so you can see the process, I'm just running commands. I'm telling the computer what to do. It's telling me the important things to see is it's telling me that what I did is okay. There are no problems. It tells me how many rows were impacted. that didn't matter here, but let me show you, for example, if I do this, insert test. Oh, use test. All right, so it tells me how many rows, like here, something you can look at, like if you try and destroy or create, you can look at this, you can look at the response that you get and then see how many, like, especially this is the last part I want to talk about. That information is important. So like, let's say if you want to delete, especially delete records, you want to know how many you're going to delete. So it's going to tell you how many, so the number that you want to delete, let's say you want to delete 10, you want to see the system to tell you, hey, 10 were affected. You don't want the system to tell you 100, because that means you made a mistake, a big mistake, very big mistake somewhere. So if you want to delete 10, you want the system to tell you, okay, 10 were deleted. So it's about 11:50 right now. Let's see, everybody, let's know. Yeah, looks like a couple of people lost connection. So yeah, it's just me. There might be some internet connections there. Me, Rachel, Carolina, and Mr. Rigo. So Mr. Rigo, do you have any questions? You're on mute right now, Mr. Rigo.
No, I don't have a question.
Okay, Mr. Wheeler is back. Mr. Wheeler, so let me, with the time that we have, let me ask Mr. Rigo, what did you learn today that was new?
Sorry.
What could you explain as far as like what you learned today? What did you learn today that was new?
What did I learn new?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what's new I learned? You mean? Oh,
Excuse me?
I did not really catch your question.
I said, what did you learn new? So some of this we've talked about before. We talked about Python before. We talked about EC2s for a long time. What did you learn today in addition to what you already knew? Like I said, you guys picked this up pretty quickly. So somebody's going to pay you to say, hey, what did you just learn? What someone's going to give you 10,000 good. I don't know how much that is. Someone's going to
I like when you ask the question like that.
yeah, I mean, but that's life. That's really how it works. You run into somebody at like you run into somebody like, okay, what can you do for me right now? I'm ready. Like you guys, I'm gonna say like you'll run into people. This is something you're interested in doing. You run into people who say, I want to do something right now. Okay, I have money right now. What can you give me right now? Right, and you always, it doesn't have to be a perfect answer, but you gotta have an answer for them. Yeah, I mean, this is what we're trying to we want to show you. Like everything I'm showing you is stuff that people where I work do. Like I'm not showing you anything that's like, it doesn't mean anything. It's like, no, like there are people where I work who don't know how to do this stuff. They do other things, which is still important. So, whatever it is that you've learned, like, okay, so, and then again, the other part is we always talk about this, like definitely share with, people had connection problems. I'm going to post a video like I posted the last one. Gary had connection problems. I saw Sabine, she was in and out. Mr. Mickinson, he wasn't here. Mr. Wheeler and Mr. Rigo, you guys were the one most here. So definitely share what you learned, with each other. Because this way, like, somebody, if you understand, Python one way, and then Sabine understands the database, we talk about databases all day today, another way, and then, somebody else, Mr. Gary understands HTTP, you guys can come together and build something, and, if this is something you're interested in, and I hope it is, it could be a good way to come together and really use this information. Because like this is, like I said, this information, like people, I've been in parking lots and people would ask me questions and say, well, I see you have this book. I don't have one in front of me, but let's say I see you have a book that says PHP. I don't do this anymore. I used to walk around with books And then people would stop me and say, hey, what are you reading? And I said, oh, okay, can you? So you always have to keep yourself open to that possibility. And I know the system in Haiti is different from the system we have here. I understand that. I completely understand that. But you guys want to be ready, for when it happens. You want to be ready. So anyway. There's like 5 minutes left. So Rachel, I think Rachel's still on. Rachel, do you have any words for the group?
Yeah, this is fantastic. Just want to echo Fritz that this is valuable information. So definitely persevere with the knowledge that you're gaining. This is to the students because you're gonna be able to use this. It's going to earn you some money at some point,
Yeah.
if you're serious about it. Yeah, I'm very excited that you two students were on the most today. I apologize for coming in a little later. I've been on the road since 5 a.m. My daughter runs track, so we were at a track meet in South Carolina today.
So you were running track.
I feel like I was running track.
No, Rachel was running track.
So yeah, that's why my camera's off, and I'm just I'm sorry I've missed a few classes in the last couple of months as well. I spoke to Fritz offline, but I'm very much with you, very much supporting this effort, very much grateful to Fritz for his sacrifice and his willingness to do this and keep doing this. And I'm grateful to Carolina and APL.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you.
For continuing to keep the information, make sure they're communicating the information to the students, keeping things coordinated over there. And I'm grateful to you students because you are the future. You're the promise of Haiti. You are the promise of the independence that we gained in 1804. You can do this. So definitely grateful that you're here. And that's it. I'm excited. I'm still excited. I myself learning a couple of things, because I'm just a user. I use the internet all the time for all kinds of stuff. HTTP here, HTTP there, but I don't know what all of it means. But I'm glad that you, Fritz, and the students can explain all this stuff to me. So that's all. Yeah, thanks.
Yes, and amen. Thank you, Rachel. And again, we really appreciate you, Carolina, for all you do. So one of the things, it's April, first week of April, I do want to put together a practice exam, have the students take that at the beginning of June. So, we're gonna have to push pretty hard, but I am gonna set up a probably a custom practice exam that's very similar to the real one. And it's gonna talk a lot about what we discussed. So already, and I can say this from experience, you have been exposed, some of you have been exposed to more. I'll let Mr. Rigo say something that it's almost 12, so I'll hand it over to Carolina. You have been exposed to more of this than some people I work with have. There are a lot of people who haven't seen it to this detail. They haven't. They kind of know how it works, and some people I know who've taken the test haven't seen as much as you've seen. Just watching me do this, which is one thing. But that's why I want you guys, I'm going to start watching the Cloud Shell login. So anyway, I'm going to put together a practice exam. I'm going to start working on that now so we can be ready in June. That's going to represent the real exam just to see where everybody is. So we're going to push a little bit more between now and June, but I am going to put together a practice exam similar to one that I took. So you guys are going to have the same experience that I did. And that's life. So, okay, Mr. Rigo, and then we turn to Carolina, and then we can sign off. Mr. Rigo, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I would talk about what I learned.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I learned many things, like HTTP. It's a type of language too, and in that language we don't find like many many things to do, many options. We find some options, and there are like get, head, post, but the most that people, I mean, the one that people use the most is get and also post. And people don't really use head. I don't really know the reason, but you said that.
Yeah.
And also, what else I learned? Yeah, I learned how to place document, how to put the information that I want. And then if I make a mistake, I can delete the mistake that I did. And so.
Okay. Good. No, this is good progress. So like I said, I'm very impressed with what you guys did. So I'll put together some more database stuff. So it looks like that's a lot easier for people to capture. Carolina, did you have anything else for the class? And the next class is going to be in 2 weeks. It's going to be in 2 weeks. I saw that question. I'm not sure we'll put it in. Oh, that was Carolina. Yes, so 2 weeks from now.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So let me go to my calendar real quick.
Sure. But I'll be here.
2 weeks, that will be the 23rd? 23rd.
Yes.
All righty. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, team. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are dedicated and really want this to happen for Haiti. I really do. So anyway, all right. I have to head out soon. Everybody, please have a great, safe day. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
All
God
right.
bless you.
Thank you,
Have
Fred.
a
Thank you,
good
everyone.
weekend.
Have a great-
Thank you.
Nice to hear your voice, Carolina. It's been a minute.
You too, Rachel.
Let's catch up soon. All right.
Yes, bye-bye.
See you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.